Yo, what is up? We are here. We are here. I am excited to talk some movie stuff. No new comic book day today. I did not go to the shop, so I can't talk about anything when it comes to new comic book day, which is a little sad, but it is hot as hell in New York right now, and I was not trying to go there. And as you can see, I got a lot of hair right now, and it's just like not trying to be outside right now. So, but there are a lot of good things to be inside. There is some news like character posters dropped for Superman, also some behind the scenes. We also got a look at the state of play today, and Arc broke the internet by announcing a new Marvel fighting game, which is insane. I don't think anyone was expecting that. So that was pretty fun. Johan, you are here. Even though I was 15 minutes early to the stream, you were there. Appreciate you, my guy. But yeah, exciting stuff. Also, what else dropped? Galactus Popcorn Bucket, which is going to be pretty dope. I'm excited about that. And then, yeah, and some, I think, Fantastic Four First Steps, the tickets dropped today, and they immediately crashed the website, which is good news for Marvel. They're not in a good spot. Their last two movies didn't perform really financially. It's the way they expected or really up to their budget, which I think is like overdone these days. I think a lot of people online think they're like movie accountants. I'm sure Disney and Marvel sort of put some padding in terms of the like licensing to kind of make sure that these movies make money. But still not the kind of money that these Marvel movies were making pre-pandemic. Yep, plus your new collection that's been started. Yes, yes, Labubu, Labubu. I don't have the Labubu in the room right now. It's in the living room. I was gonna make this a Labubu stream, but I don't think I have the audience yet. But a lot of people joined the channel from my Labubu short, so hopefully they're watching this as well, and we could kind of talk about that. Hunter Iggy, Nightwing Stan, how are you? What is your thoughts on what Sean O'Rourke posted today? I have no idea who that is or what they posted, so I have no thoughts on what they posted. Any new games stand out? I think there was the Romeo is a Dead Man was pretty cool. That looked awesome. Kind of looked like, kind of reminded me of Chainsaw Man a little bit. And then yeah, Marvel Token, that like was insane. I wasn't expecting that. um like when that trailer kind of came on, I was literally like, what is going on right now? Like I thought it was Marvel versus Capcom, which we got the second best thing, which was a Arc Systems fighting game. Derek was about to sit down with my coffee in Absolute Superman number 8 and saw this go live. I am glad you picked me over Absolute Superman number 8. I really appreciate that, and that really means a lot to me. I sadly did not get into the shop today, so I did not get my Absolute number 8, but that book keeps getting better, which is awesome. Unlucky Dreamer, any thoughts on Lois not having a poster? I'm gonna be real with you. I think a lot of people are jumping down James Gunn's throat when it comes to Lois Lane not having a character poster, when we know probably tomorrow Lois Lane and the rest of the Superman like Daily Planet crew are gonna get all their character posters. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, Lois Lane, all of them are gonna get character posters tomorrow. So I think the love will be spread tomorrow. Hunter Iggy, did you get the prequel novel Welcome to Metropolis? It featured Metallo. I did not get the prequel novel, but I read a lot of stuff when it comes to that, and it was really exciting. There were some details about Baby Joey. Obviously, there's some other details about Lex Luthor. So we got some things in terms of the lore. I always kind of like with those tie-in novels. Like I think people like take too much from them, but it seemed like some basic information that will give us a little bit of context about what's going on in Superman. My thoughts exactly. Yeah, Unlucky Dreamer. Like I think people online are like, oh, like I hate James Gunn. James Gunn hates women because there's no Lois Lane character poster. It's like, well, some dropped yesterday, some dropped today. Lex Luthor dropped today, so he's like the main villain of the movie, and we had to wait a day for his character poster. And I think, like I said, the Daily Planet, all of them are gonna get one tomorrow. Lois Lane had a big scene in that Guy Gardner little behind the scenes thing, and Lois Lane was featured like heavily in the last trailer. So I don't think they're trying to shy away from Lois. She's going to be a big part of this movie. Probably the second most important character in the whole movie. So I think a lot of people are overdoing it when it comes to like the hate. When it comes to Lois Lane and James Gunn, I think it's going to be fine. We're going to get a lot of Lois Lane stuff. Now, when it comes to McFarlane Toys making a Lois Lane action figure, probably not. I wouldn't hold out hope for that. But when it comes to a character poster, tomorrow we'll probably get one. I just started watching Superman Red Sun and then you went live. Also, thank you for choosing me over Superman Red Sun. I didn't love that animated movie, but the book is amazing. James hates women but posts a poster of Lex's girlfriend. Yeah, who's probably going to be in the movie for like 2 minutes at most. So yes, I get it. Some people are like, Lois Lane is the second most important character in the whole movie, and why do we have all these other characters get these character posters? But I think people are super impatient and trying to get angry at something and create a conversation over nothing. Mark, Legion of Comics, with 37 characters and a 2 hour runtime, no one is going to be a big part of the film. I think that's overdone too. Like, runtimes, like, people expect every superhero movie to be like 3 hours long. Yes, there's a lot of characters, but I think this movie is supposed to be sort of like a Silver Age type Superman story where he's at the center of it. Like, I don't think I need some of these characters to be in it the whole movie to really get at it. And just by looking at the trailer, a lot of these characters appear in it more than, like, let's say, I don't know, like some other movies that featured a lot of like superheroes in them. And I think James Gunn has worked on superhero projects for over 10 years at this point, and he probably knows how to balance it. It's going to be well paced, 2 hours. Hopefully that means more screenings and more people can watch the movie. Red Sun is still on my TBR somehow. Yeah, Red Sun, again, Mark Millar, who years ago was saying that he was coming back to Superman, but I think he's like, oh, I'll just wait till Superman is public domain, which is cool, but I think it'd be a lot cooler if he was doing it at DC Comics, but makes sense. To be fair, everyone complains about King Trunk times, except me. Normalize 4 hour movies. No, do not normalize 4 hour movies, especially when they're not well paced. I think Fantastic Four First Steps and Superman are going to be the start of the silver age of comic book movies. That is a really good point. There is a great YouTuber, I think her name is Go Read Some Comics with Jenna. She made a great video about how we're entering the silver age of comic book movies, which I kind of agree with. You know, we're kind of like, we left the golden age and now we're in the silver age, and there's going to be different types of stories. This Superman story looks very different from what we've seen before, and that's a good thing. Like, Superman is well established, there's other heroes in it, and I'm actually excited about that aspect of the movie where, like, you have a world where, hey, years ago, maybe the JSA existed. Mr. Terrific sort of operates over here. We know Peacemaker's out there. And it's not like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where kind of everything starts with Captain America taking that super soldier serum, and then everything kind of balloons from there, and then there's Iron Man and stuff. There's like a real history to this world, and there's like big world building, which I appreciate. Bring back intermissions. Theaters would make more food sales. Yes. I don't know. Like, some theaters, man, their food sucks. So I don't think bringing back intermissions will change that. Hungry Almighty. I have a feeling that if Superman is success, which I hope it is, that we will finally see the whole DCU slate at SDCC or a Batman Brave and the Bold official release date. Completely agree with that, especially with the fact that, like, James Gunn hasn't revealed the movie he's working on. We know that the Batman Part 2 is probably going to film like next year, so who knows if they're even able to make that 2027 release date. And Peter Safran has said a Batman movie will come out in 2027. Now that can mean the Batman 2, that can mean the Batman Brave and the Bold. I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn was like, I'll just do it myself, because he has said that Batman is his favorite superhero character. So I wouldn't be surprised. He's the boss. So he's basically everything he's greenlit is something that he has written or involves Tom King. So I wouldn't be surprised if Batman is announced. And also, like, he probably will have a lot more juice at Warner Brothers if Superman is a success. So things like Booster Gold, Waller, the things that were announced that haven't been moving that much since the initial announcement probably move a lot quicker if Superman is huge, which we all hope it is. Yep, I agree with Jenna. I just watched that video yesterday. I'm glad you did. It's a great video, well researched, well put together. I hope to one day be able to put together a video like that. She had her thoughts all well put there, and I think it's a really good argument. But if Fantastic Four and Superman don't perform to the level we expect them to, I think sort of we're going the way of the Western, not even a Silver Age. Hungry Almighty, I like the idea of James saying this is a world that's lived in, because it opens the door for prequel stories like maybe a Hal Jordan animated HBO Max prequel show telling the story of a younger Hal. I do like that. Kyle Chandler is great as an older Hal, but there's a whole Lanterns history that we won't get just from that series, just because, hey, and also Guy is older in this. So I would love to see that. I'm excited actually for the My Adventures with Green Lantern show. I do like the Superman one, so a Green Lantern one is going to be fun. I just finished reading Kingdom Come and kind of see why he picked that crest for Superman. Yes, I don't even think it's really debatable. That's the best Superman suit design. Like when it showed up in live action in the was it the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, the CW big crossover, and Brown and Ralph was wearing it. Like best design. I reread it too the other day because this compact comic, and it's literally the perfect format for any comic. I love these, like, matches up pretty close to manga, which I like. And yeah, that design, and he always like is sharing like art from Alex Ross when he's talking about like planning and stuff like that. I'm actually looking for like a specific piece of art from here. Hopefully it comes up. But I think some of like Kingdom Come, and this is why like there's so many characters in Superman. I think part of the story is like Superman being this type of hero, in a world of metahumans that maybe are not that equipped to be hopeful and all that, and we know what that story is about. So I wouldn't be surprised if this heavily inspired sort of like the direction James Gunn went with Superman, and that's why there's so many different characters. Kingdom Come is the greatest comic story ever told. Mark, you have never told a lie. I want to see that documentary. I know you did a video on it. I know the Kickstarter is still going, so hopefully I could get like a digital version of it. I would love to see that. Do a prequel story before the Justice League, a prequel on the generation before, JSA, and also a prequel Teen Titans movie with the Fab Five. I actually want to see a Teen Titans movie with Damian. I like, hey, do dynamic duos, and that will have like your Dick Grayson and Jason Todd fix, and then just do like Teen Titans with Damian. I think that would be super like compelling. And then if Brave and the Bold is super successful, like the kid that's gonna be in that movie is gonna be a star, so it'll be easy to kind of like jump into that quickly, because you don't want them to age like the Stranger Things kids who look very old when there's only been 5 years in the show that have passed. Compact comics are fire, man. Yes, Burke. They are the best thing DC has ever done in terms of a format. $10, the greatest stories that have ever been told. There have been a couple ones that aren't so great, and I haven't picked them up. But for the most part, like, and some of them are thick too. Like the Catwoman one, like the Brubaker and Darwin Cook Trail of Catwoman, this is like thick. Like there's like 15 issues in here for $10, and you're getting Darwin Cook art. The like the New Frontier one is coming out soon. I'm gonna get that on day one. So Compact Comics, I cannot endorse any more than I already have. Dropping in real quick before I do some yard work. Appreciate you, Burke. Thanks for the support. Hypothetically speaking, let's say The Brave and the Bold don't release till 2028 because of the Reeves Bats 2 in 2027. What can DC do in the meantime to maintain hype? My hope is a Green Lantern movie. I don't think a Green Lantern movie is happening. I think they're going to relegate Lanterns to a show. Uh, Sadly, Green Lantern is in forever movie jail because of the 2011 movie. Like, we'll never see a Flash movie again. Like, the next time I see a Flash movie, I'll probably be in my 60s. Like, that's how, like movie jail Flash is in. And that's the same thing with Green Lantern. So I think that's why they're like, hey, like, Green Lantern's still, like, a really great concept. Why don't we make it a HBO Max show? And in terms of, like, building the hype, like that dynamic duos, like it seems like they're actually like building on that. So like if that's a really good animated movie on the level of like Beyond the Spider-Verse, the hype will be there. And Batman, like that's the thing about Batman, as I wear my dynamic duo shirt, the hype will always be there. Like DC could be dead and gone, there will be Batman movies. So I'm not worried about Batman maintaining the hype. What I'm worried about is being able to see a cohesive DC universe. Like, I'm in my 30s. I spent, the last 10 years hoping that the DCEU would right the ship. And I've seen Marvel. Yes, they've fallen off, but, like, I got to enjoy that. Like, it's crazy that a Marvel Cinematic Universe even exists, and that's where we're at. I have a feeling that Guy isn't as much as a veteran as we think. He's probably closer to Superman years on the job than Hal's 20 years. I don't know. I feel like he probably started like around Hal, and I would like to think that like Hal despises him, and that's why John gets the ring. And also it's a Tom King story, so I wouldn't be shocked. Spoiler alert, not that I've seen any leaks or anything like that, but knowing Tom King, I wouldn't be surprised if the murderer at the center of that show is Guy Gardner, and that's how John gets the ring. Because we do know Guy's in the show, so how big of a part he is in that show, whether it be him being the person that was murdered, or maybe flying by to give some like background on how. But hey, like I said, I am pretty okay with Guy being like killed in that show because I'm like, well, it's a Tom King story, so more than likely Guy is going to be gone. I'm saying if they do a Teen Titans with Damian's team, they can do a prequel of how it led up to that point with previous Teen Titan generations, since there's 4 generations. That's true. And you can make animated movies and all that kind of things. I just want to see a Teen Titans that's good, that's not like the Titans show. I do not like Damian on the Titans, like at all. Get your own team like your older brothers. That's fair, but I did like the Rebirth run. I know a lot of people maybe not like it, but I thought it was cool to have that dynamic of like Damian kind of kidnapping the rest of the team and being a different type of leader than Dick was. So I thought that was cool. I know a lot of people want the classic team, but I've had the Teen Titans animated series, Teen Titans Go. I think it would be interesting, and also we know that Damian is James Gunn's favorite Robin, so I think he's going to have a little bit of favoritism when it comes to that. But you're right, it'd be cool to kind of add like some like context to the DC universe through a Titan story. Like I always loved in Young Justice when they kind of like had like flashbacks of when they were kids or like when they first met and all that kind of stuff. So like there is an opportunity to tell like generational stories with Teen Titans. I think the Lantern show will be a success if they can get AO3 Tumblr crowd interested in it. I think it'll be a success because Damon Lindelof, Chris Mundy, they have some really good. Like I'm not a Tom King fan, like of he's so hit or miss with me, but there's so many great talented people involved. Like I'm sure it's gonna be good, and like it's the perfect kind of like premise of like lanterns being like this kind of like true detective kind of thing. It's a way to kind of do it without getting too cosmic. Like I feel like you either have to do it like the way they're approaching it right now, or you have to do like this epic space opera like the Jeff Johns comics, like Robert Venditti's like Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. Like there's no like in between, you know. You have to go either one or the other. So I think actually this is going to be, you know, successful if they land the plane on what they're trying to do. To be honest, I think Lanterns could be a test for Green Lantern. They want to see how it does as a show, and if it does extremely well, they could go ahead and make a Green Lantern movie. I mean, they have Aaron Pierre. That is correct. Aaron Pierre is a movie star. Rebel Ridge was amazing. Netflix, like, immediately everyone was like, "That's Jon Stewart." I think like that's the quickest you've ever seen a fan cast kind of come true. And obviously Mufasa was a huge hit, more than people expected. I was like, who wants to see Mufasa, like a prequel to The Lion King, and especially like a live action one? Apparently a lot of people. It made like over a $500 million. So he's a star. I would love to see him in the big screen. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a Justice League movie where he's a big part of it. But in terms of Lanterns, a show, like if it's a successful show, like it's an HBO show, so I don't know if HBO would let that go. I think they would want him to still be a part of that series. But we'll see. The DCU is still young, and a lot of things, even though they have a slate sort of like planned out, like, and James Gunn has this huge 10-year plan with Peter Safran and all that. All of it hinges on these things being successful, and I think that's kind of like what we saw with Marvel. Like Marvel was really good at sort of like building on success, and even when they had things that didn't work so well, they were able to kind of like adjust on the fly, because they weren't like such big like flops that like you had to reassess things. And that's what changed after Endgame. They had like a couple of like a string of a couple big flops that had to go, made them go like, oh, we have to change everything. And that's what happened with the DCEU. Like, you know, they started big with Batman versus Superman, and then they're like, oh wait, people don't like this. Or I mean, I like the movie, but the general audience, like, and then they had to adjust, and then they recut Suicide Squad, and then no one likes that, and then it just becomes a mess. So Superman has to be successful, Supergirl has to be successful, Lanterns, like, they all have to lead into each other. Gotta hate the characterization for the Titans live action show. They would progress, then just regress in the next season with character growth. You are so right, Johan. I think in one of the seasons, there was legit, like, I think it was the third or the fourth, the last one I watched. Like, I think like 5 or 6 characters got shot, different ones. And it was just like, and it felt like different people were writing, like the writers were writing different shows every episode. Like one person was like, hey, I'm writing the Good Titan show, which was like the opening of season 2 and stuff like that, which is like the best episode, I think. And then there were just like people that like, oh, I'm writing this show, or I'm writing this show, because it's like the characters were doing things that made no sense in the context of that show. And it was so disappointing, because the guy Brendan Thwaites, I think he is, was a perfect Dick Grayson. um, Almost the entire cast was like perfectly cast, except like, I don't know, Scarecrow. That was like a dumb casting decision. It was like the guy from Mad Men, and it felt like it wasn't Scarecrow at all. And also Batman, the old guy from Game of Thrones. I think that is like, I think we can all agree that was the worst live action Batman we've ever seen. Yeah, I could easily see Guy kicking the bucket, given how in books John replaced Guy after Guy got injured. In the Lantern synopsis, it says Lantern legend Hal takes up new recruit John. Again, I would not be surprised if Guy is, and you know, Tom King does not know how to write, you know, a DC story without like killing someone you might like. So I would not be surprised if that is the center of this series. And he almost killed Guy in, what was that? Human Target, which actually the art in that book was amazing, but I did not love that. And, you know, as much as I'm kind of reiterating that point, I do want to say I did love Gotham City Year One with Phil Hester. That was a Tom King book that I recently really liked, and obviously Mr. Miracle and stuff. But I think, yeah, that is the one thing about that Lantern series where I'm like, oh my god, like, and also the possibility of Hal kind of being like a villain again. It's like, if we have to do the parallax thing one more time, I'm just sick of that. They did it in animated form and all those kind of things. I just want to see like the cool stuff about Green Lantern, like the stuff that was in the Jeff Johns books, in Robert Venditti's run, in Jeremy Adams like recent stuff, Peter Tomasi. There's so many great like Green Lantern stuff that you could draw from that has nothing to do with the 90s and the parallax and all that. Like people like there's a reason that was retcon. I have a feeling we could see another Flash movie sooner than you think if we move on from the blonde guy and focus on the ginger guy. Yes, Wally would be a huge hit, you know, like he wasn't really too much in the Flash series, like he kind of like took a back burner and stuff. But it seems like DC, you know, they haven't done great with Wally. I know they're coming out with like an animated show where it's like Martian Manhunter is like the principal of a school, and I think Wally's in it. I think Wally did show up in Creature Commandos as like one of the like people that was like on the stake and stuff. So I think Wally would actually work a lot better in live action because like the character of Barry that showed up in the DCEU was not Barry Allen. Like Ezra Miller's performance is like so it was they were clearly trying to make Barry Allen like the Spider-Man of the Justice League, and it just doesn't work that way. And like that character is so different. And even though I like aspects of the Flash movie, like that decision to sort of make Barry Allen like the kid of the team and all that was like the reason why, like one of the reasons why that movie was a big flop. Like the whole movie's him trying to be like, "Hey, you're annoying. Stop being annoying," to himself. Agreed. Terrible bats. Yes, that was a terrible casting. Alex Ross art for $9.99 in Kingdom Come DC Compact. Yes, classic. Also listening while I work. Dislike Tom King. Yeah, I try like whenever he has a new book out because I'm like there was a time and I guess it's like wrestling. I used to be a huge wrestling fan, and then just one day there's for some reason I just could not watch wrestling anymore. And I think that's like kind of what happened with me and like Tom King. I really like love Tom King's books, and then there was just one day where I just like maybe like I figured out like, oh, like I'm tired of reading stuff like this. It's just like Andy in Toy Story. It's like I don't want to play with you anymore. Yeah. I did like the Riddler One Bad Day one shot. So again, hit or miss. And I'm really hopeful that Lanterns is successful because again, I cannot take another 10 years of like reboots for the DC universe. Gunn said it's now a 6-year plan that ends in an endgame style event. Realistically, is possible given how WB said 2 live action and 1 animated movie per year, along with 2 HBK live action and 2 animated. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, but like in terms of like the pace they're at right now, I think next year they might be able to do 2. Like they have Clayface, it seems like it's ramping up, but again, who knows? Like they pulled Sergeant Rock pretty quickly, like so it seemed like they had a plan before, but it looks like that plan is like very fluid for certain things, you know. And it is weird that we're getting a Clayface before we're getting like a Wonder Woman, actual proper Batman movie, all that kind of stuff. Like I'm for like lesser known characters and you know lower budget like superhero movies getting made. But if you are starting a cinematic universe where people are like the general audience, like we love this stuff, we love DC comics, we love DC characters, but like the general audience for the most part, they come in, they're like, hey, the last like 6 or 7 DC movies I saw sucked. So like, you know, maybe they're not in a position to take a chance on these lesser known characters. And I think that's kind of like the problem Marvel's having too. It's like they had a lot of success with like characters like Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're like, we could try anything. And then they made like Eternals, and then people didn't like that. And it's just like, hey, like you like the big characters have to be successful so that you can do those like, lesser known ones and all that kind of stuff. So as much as like I'm down for like a Mike Flanagan written Clayface movie, I'm more of the mindset of like, hey, you need to make your Wonder Woman movie. Hey, you need to make the Batman movie. Hey, make a Flash, even if it's like a TV show again. Yeah, please no parallax. God no. Yes, no parallax, please. Speaking of comics, I finally finished the New 52 era Nightwing, Grayson, Batman, Robin, Eternal, and finally onto Rebirth. And I'm happy I got to this point so I can actually enjoy these things. I really like the Rebirth Nightwing from Tim Seeley. That was really good. Grayson, I just I didn't really dig it. It's kind of like a cool concept, like but I think like there was a couple years where like it was clear like Dan Didio must have hated like Nightwing for some reason. Like he changed the logo to like red. He was shot in the head. His his identity was revealed. It was a rough couple years if you were a Nightwing fan, honestly. I hope if they do a Wally movie, they do his Rebirth suit, best Flash suit. Period. That is a cool suit, but I don't know if they're ever gonna. That's like a hard one to pull off. But they did give Guy Gardner a bowl cut, so maybe they're able to pull it off. Wally is the best Flash. I think that's the case for a lot of people. It's like Jon Stewart with Green Lantern. People grew up on that Justice League animated show, and that had a big effect on what people perceive as like their Flash. But also the Barry Allen show, the live action CW show, was also really impactful. So I think Wally like was the Flash, and then obviously not to do it again, but Tom King killed them. Wally was dead, and then also like the show was so successful. I think Barry's kind of like the Flash again. They will 100% go with Wallace over Wally and just name him Wally. Feels like they have, if they want to be diverse. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna do that because again, like in the show, like Wallace was not sort of like a big part of that show, and then also in the comics, Wallace has taken a backseat. Wally's been the main kind of Flash on the like main book for like 2 years now, and Jeremy Adams did a great job of sort of like redeeming that character after Heroes in Crisis. So I think Wally, if they do it, it's gonna be Wally. And we also saw like a peek at it, like I think their interpretation of Wally is classic Wally and not Wallace. What I don't want to see is them kill off Hal within first season of Lanterns. My hope is that they don't do a Green Lantern movie, then do 3 seasons of Lanterns HBO with Hal and John. That is another thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Hal is the villain and Parallax and has to die at the end, and that's how John learns to be a Green Lantern. I would love to be proven wrong, but that is where I think that story's going. Ezra's Barry wasn't even Wally coded. It was more Bart than anything. That is a good point. Like it felt like Impulse. That's 100% a rumor on the 6-year plan. The rumor actually, that isn't a rumor. Like I think in the last press thing that they did for the DCU slate, James Gunn actually said that there's a 6-year plan that's gonna like end in the Endgame style like event and stuff. So they're hyping themselves up. The Clayface movie needs to be like a $30 million budget or less. Completely agree. I think they've said it's going to be like 40 to 50 million, which is fair. And if they're going to do the Feet of Clay story, like it's not like they need a crazy budget for it, unless Batman and Robin show up in it. Man, I really enjoyed the Internals, to be honest, but I agree with the criticism that it should have been a TV series. I think the fatal flaw with Eternals is that every 5 minutes they have to apologize for not doing anything during the blip. So like it kind of like you're constantly reminded like, hey, this is why we did nothing for about Thanos, and it's annoying. I do like pieces of that movie, but like every time they mention it, it's like, hey, like why can't this be this own thing? Like, and it's clear that they wanted it to be bigger, like that whatever was gonna happen with the Internals, like maybe that would explain like mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's clear that they had to pivot and stuff. But the cast was amazing in that movie. I don't mind Gunn focusing on small budget movies because when the big budget, super big character movies do come, it's even more of a home run, which is fair. But like I said, I think you need to start with those home runs before you start, going into those smaller characters. I'm excited for the DCU, but now it's not the time to be doing Clayface, and I don't care how good it is. It's proven that even a movie is good, it can flop. Just look at Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, I don't think it's a huge flop. Like again, like I feel like we're all sort of turning into like movie accountants. Uh, and who knows how much they spent? Because like, there's reported budgets, but there's also like tax rebates. They get like licensing to kind of like be in like Dairy Queen and all that kind of stuff. So like movie math is such a weird thing. And I think Thunderbolts, even though it wasn't a huge financial success, because it was really good, it kind of gets people back into like the Marvel brand, you know, after people sort of like have given up on it. So I think, was it a huge like success and maybe they should have called it New Avengers from the beginning to get more people to see it? Maybe. But I think it being a good movie is more important than anything, so that when people go see it, it's not like, you know, what was happening with the DCEU towards the end where people were like, well, all these movies suck, so I'm not going to even see the good ones, i.e. Blue Beetle. Well, hello there. What's up, Uncle Becker? How are you? I think in the Creature Commando series, you see Wally more flowy red hair, but they can always change it. Yeah, they can always change it. Like, you know, just because he appeared like 2 seconds in that. Like, for example, Clayface. Like, if that's the DCU Clayface, it's not going to be played by Alan Tudyk, who played him in that. So like, they're not beholden to like a flash forward premonition, you know. But I do think that's probably a hint as like who James Gunn sees as the Flash. I don't mind Parallax, to be honest. I do mind Parallax. I like Kyle, so if a Parallax story is what gets us him, I don't know if we'll get Kyle. I think if they kill both Guy and Hal, maybe we'll get Kyle. I actually like, just to give you a little peek at how I make my videos. A lot of times, you know, unless it's like news or like a comic review, I will make the thumbnail for my video, which is like sort of like makes me commit to making that video. Or like if I get a good idea, I'm like, all right, let me make that thumbnail, and then I'll worry about making the video later. I did a thumbnail on Kyle, so hopefully pretty soon you'll be seeing a Kyle video on the channel. Thunderbolts flopped. It wasn't a huge flop. Like it basically, I think it made like close to 400 million, but like based on the budget, which is 150, you're supposed to make double that, and then you think about like the marketing and stuff like that. Again, like that's just like movie math and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't think it's a huge flop. And who knows like how much money it really made? Because like I said, they license things, they have toys and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that it made money. And again, it kind of sucks that like we always have to think about these things with these superhero movies, but you know, sadly that's where we're at. What I could see is Hal and Guy are older generation human GL, and John and Kyle will be the main two new Lanterns. JLU had John as GL, JLGL, and Kyle as the other GL with the corpse. That's fair. And they're building like a big lore, as you can see, like, you know, Mr. Terrific, like maybe they get to like the Mr. Terrific before and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they expand in that way. But and also like the cast of the show is pretty big. Like we might get a version of Atrocitus, like the Black Hand might be in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next season you introduce like other Lanterns, maybe like Boz or Jessica, Kyle. But I wouldn't be surprised if they skip Kyle, because they always kind of forget about Kyle. So we'll see. I do hope, like, you know, that Kyle appears, because it's like, hey, like, he's so cool. Like, he's an artist. Like, he could create all these different like constructs. Like, why don't we highlight that character? And also, like, he's Latino. Like, that's easy. Like, do it. You know. And just I know we could get, like, Kyle is a pretty disrespected character, and that is the topic of the video. I was actually going to make that video and sort of like be like, hey, he's the most disrespected Lantern. Like 2 issues into his run, like his girlfriend gets murdered and pushed into a fridge. Like, how insane is that? Poor Kyle. Blue Beetle was one of the best movies I've ever seen, and it flopped. Yes, I took my whole family to see that movie. I did my part. So I don't want to hear it. Like when people ask about like original superhero movies, I have a Blue Beetle toy over there. I have like a Blue Beetle like thing from the when I went to see the movie. It was so sad to see that movie flop, especially how hard it flopped. Yes, it was a part of like the actor strike and the writer strike was going on, so they couldn't really promote it well. But I feel like WB really like dropped the ball on like getting that movie out there because it didn't have like a huge budget. So like, hey, like why don't you use the money you didn't spend on the budget on the marketing to get this really out there? Like, and it really sucks that that movie flopped. And it seemed like I mean they said they're working on the animated series, and Zolo said to watch Superman. Like, so maybe there's a hint at like Blue Beetle in that movie. Like, maybe there's a big like reveal of all the superheroes in the DCU currently, which would be like pretty cool and insane. Like imagine there's like a scene like the end of Justice League Unlimited where everyone's running out. That would be cool. But I want to see more Blue Beetle, more Jaime, please. I hope they do Rebirth so that Hal can come back younger. Yes, I do love like Rebirth was like right before. Oh, you're talking about Green Lantern Rebirth. I'm bugging. I'm thinking about like the Rebirth era of Green Lantern, not like Jeff Johns' Rebirth. Yes, it'd be cool if he comes back younger, but I do like the Kyle Chandler like casting. Like that's pretty dope. Are you going to Scott Snyder's signing next week for Midtown? He always nice to meet. I'm thinking about it. Thursday next Thursday. I did go to the Absolute Batman #1 signing. He was really nice. The only thing kind of keeping me from it is like, yes, it's not a Batman #1, so maybe it won't be as crowded. And it's not a new comic book day, but like that last one, like I waited in line like 2-3 hours, man. Like that was a lot. But I do want to like I would love to like meet Scott again. And since that last signing in October, the channel's grown significantly. So I'd love to ask him to come on the channel and talk about like Absolute Batman, the Absolute Universe. That's like sort of like holy grail for the channel. Like Absolute Batman's been such a huge part of like what I've been doing on this channel. I would love to be able to talk to him and hopefully get him on and ask him some questions. Rainer is definitely my favorite Lantern of them all. I would not argue with that. Like I mean I always kind of go between like Hal and John, personally, but Kyle has grown on me a lot recently because I was reading like a lot of his like early run in Infinite, and he was a part of the Justice League. That's why it's kind of like crazy that like he's so disrespected because he has more like single issues as the main Green Lantern than John or Guy or Jessica or Boz. Like he was the Green Lantern, the only Green Lantern, because everyone was dead. So it's insane that sometimes like he gets pushed to the side. It's the same thing with like Tim Drake. Even though Tim Drake is probably one of my least favorite Robins, but if you think about it, like he had like the Robin mini like ongoing series in the '90s. He was Robin a lot longer than Jason Todd was. Yet he's always pushed to the side. I did love when he was Batman Beyond. That was a really cool and underrated run. Kyle is the most underrated. Speaking of Kyle, does anyone know where Kyle is now in the comics? Actually, Green Lantern Corps, which is going on right now from Jeremy Adams and his last name is Hampton, Morgan Hampton. They're doing that book, and a lot of characters that like taken sort of like a back seat, like Boz, Jessica, Kyle. They're all in that book. And he was also in the main Green Lantern book. So Kyle is kind of like back in monthly comics. So if you want to read some more Kyle stuff and you have DC Infinite, I think the first 3 issues of Green Lantern Corps is on there right now. Blue Beetle was great. People just shitted on it without knowing it. Yes, yes. I do think it got great reviews and stuff like that. But I do think like the DC brand was in the toilet, so no one was taking a chance on it. Red Hood, most disrespected character for DC. Michael, that is pretty accurate in some ways. Like, I do think like they just don't know what to do with him. Like, I hate like the design where he has like the 2 crowbars and stuff. And Hush, oh my god, I didn't even read the last issue of Hush, but that second issue, it was just like, oh my god, like it ignored like 20 years of like Jason Todd stories and was just like, hey, let's just make Jason Todd the same Jason Todd that was in that last Hush story. So, not a great representation of Jason, but hey, that's comics and DC these days. But hopefully we get a good representation in dynamic duos. I like the Blue Beetle movie. He's one of my favorites. So I had nitpicks. It's not in El Paso, but all the characters were great. Yes, El Paso was a big part of that original one run. I do like Palmera City, because they created a new city for the movie. Like it's easy to. I think the DC universe is weird because it's like you have all these fake cities like Gotham, Metropolis, Star City, Central City, and then you have a very real city like El Paso. So it's a weird thing, and I get like why they made that change in the movie, and they also made the change in the comics. Like they did that because then you could kind of introduce a whole different kind of that's how they're able to get like Ted Corp in there and all that kind of stuff. So I get why they did it, and it's a little disappointing because I think those early stories were like those early Blue Beetle comics had those stories were really centered on sort of that part of the country. So it sucks that they changed it, but I get why they did it. Speaking of Red Hood, would you rather Jason Todd already established as Red Hood and the Under Red Hood storyline already happened before Batman Brave and the Bold, or Jason is still dead after as later as I don't know. I'd like to see it. I think I don't know. It's just so crazy. That character is so cool and people love him and I love him, but it's hard to kind of do a story after Under the Red Hood. Arkham Knight did a pretty decent job of sort of adapting it and changing it a little bit, and they almost told that story in Young Justice. It's so frustrating that they never got to tell that story in Young Justice because they teased it so many different times. But in terms of Jason, I don't know, because also the Dynamic Duos movie, we don't know if it's set in the DCU and stuff like that. So I'm excited just to see Jason in a big animated movie. So I'm excited for that. Whoa! Tim Drake got that shit on. He does got that on. The big baton and stuff like that. He has a cool basically anytime you're sharing Robin art of the last 30 years, it probably is Tim Drake, and that's why it's kind of funny he always gets disrespected because it's he's been the Robin. Middle child treatment for Rayner and Drake. Yes, I that's a perfect sort of encapsulation of what those characters are. Yeah, you should, Johan. Go read that Green Lantern book. Anything Jeremy Adams, go read. Kyle got lost because they killed Hal, etc. He's in the same boat as Miles, where we have two versions of the same character. Yes, but I think Green Lantern's a little different. And also with Miles, the problem with Miles is that they brought him into the main 616 universe. And I think he works better as the Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe because he's allowed to kind of be his own character, which is why it works in the animated movie because it's yes, there's 1,000 Spider-Man in these Spider-Verse movies, but in his universe he's Spider-Man. Peter died in his universe, so I think that's why that character works so well in the movies. And then in the game they do a pretty good job of sort of having that history and switching between them and stuff like that. I just think in the comics they just don't know how to handle it, and they haven't really told great stories with Miles since he's come over to the 616. I heard the Cody Ziegler run is pretty good, but I haven't read it. I think I want to make a video about how Wonder Woman always gets disrespected in big events and Elseworlds titles, leading to people thinking that she is an authoritarian, which is fair. I mean, she snapped Ted Kord's neck. That is actually a good premise for a video. I did make a video on how DC hates Wonder Woman. That's mainly because of she got her game canceled. She's not. There's no active plans for her in the DCU that we know of. So with me, that is I will watch that video because I believe in it. I think that is the case. She does get sort of they use her in a certain way. Even in Kingdom Come, in Kingdom Come, she's the one that's in Superman's ear, no, we need to kill them. So she does get pretty violent in those things. So I think that's a good idea for a video on Lucky Dreamer. Hungry Almighty. Unfortunately, I could easily see them skipping Tim Drake, similar to the New 52 DC animated universe where they removed Jason and Tim from the lore. I could see the same thing, except Jason isn't skipped, but Tim is. Yeah, I would actually. I think the one place that kind of handled it well was like Young Justice. Young Justice was kind of leading to that point where you saw Jason, you saw Tim, Damien was just kind of like born, and I think if they did another time jump, you would have seen Damien in that like Under the Red Hood story. It was cool to see like, you know, Damien and Jason sort of like in the same vicinity, and so there's like a story to be told, and I think like if they do Batman Brave and the Bold, they can include like Jason. Like, what if Jason's the villain along with Talia? You know, so there's so many stories that could be told with multiple Robins. You know, but it's just like it's a lot. And I think the structure of the DCU right now does allow it to kind of be told. Whereas like, you know, if you're just like doing the Batman part two, you know, like hey, like in that universe we're never getting to Damien or any of those other characters. You know, the fictional cities is probably what really differentiates DC and Marvel for me. New York is way too close to home in the real world, and being in the DC uni cities takes you out of the real. Yeah, and like I said, that's why I understand the change. It's like, hey, the rest of the DC universe are fake city, like cities that sort of match up with some real cities. Like I think like Metropolis feels like, you know, almost like San Francisco or something like that, or like Chicago, and then Gotham obviously feels like New York. Start like there's just I get it. I get why they made that change for Blue Beetle. I hope we get new DC comic or Ghost Machine title reveal at SDCC. Ghost Machine, I think, you know, to give you a little behind the scenes, by the way, if you haven't ever watched my interview with Jeff Johns, please go to the Bada Boom podcast. I've interviewed Jeff Johns twice. Shameless plug. But I think with Ghost Machine, they've really sort of like made New York Comic Con their like hub of like where they do like big announcements and stuff like that. So I think, you know, you'll probably see more at New York Comic Con when it comes to like Ghost Machine. DC for sure. San Diego Comic Con, there's going to be a lot of announcements. WB doesn't see her as profitable, which is insane. They sell plenty of Warner Brother like Wonder Woman t-shirts. Wonder Woman 1 was like one of the few successful movies in the DC EU. Every time they get a chance on investor calls, they say Wonder Woman is a pillar of our IP. So it's just weird that on one hand, they're saying that, and then on the other hand, they're not doing anything with the character. Young Justice got out of hand with the amount of characters, not only so many, they have so much lore behind them. That was a little bit, and I think they kind of like steered away from like what made like the show like really great. As time has gone on, I've appreciated season 3 and season 4 a lot more, but I see why like people like jumped off the Young Justice boat after it returned after so many years. In your thumbnail, you got the new FF film in it. You talked about it yet? Not too much. I talked about like them crashing the ticket sales. I didn't expect as many people to show up in the chat and me to have all these conversations, and I need to be better about keeping on task. But it's been so cool talking with you guys and catching up. But I haven't talked about Fantastic Four too much. I actually wanted to talk about this. We'll talk about it right now then. Segue. This popcorn bucket. How awesome is that? Like, I'm literally going to see this movie twice just because of this popcorn bucket. I usually go to Regal because that's closer to me. But this is an AMC exclusive. So I'm probably going to get this.
Okay, we should eat.
I'm excited. With Marvel stuff, I don't get too excited, but like I did like Thunderbolts. I do like Pedro Pascal. Who knows? Like the Doom thing, I'm not too excited about. Them doing Shia LaBeouf, Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Rad is a choice. I think if you're gonna do like the Fantastic, like you're not gonna do the Silver Surfer Galactus story again in the MCU in the MCU, sorry. So why not do the one that everyone loves? Like Shia Ball was Silver Surfer like in two comics in the comics. So I don't know why like Marvel and Disney wants to make their own lives hard by using that version of the character. But if it's great, who matter? Like what like it's not gonna matter. It's we'll all forget it and stuff like that if the movie's great. I know people hate on Wayne family adventures, but I think writers could take notes on how it uses large bat family conflicts. That makes sense. That was super successful. Like maybe people online, like on Twitter and stuff like that, like hate it, but it clearly was a huge hit for DC and Webtoon. So I have to read it. I do like it's been sort of like on the back of my mind, and I hope to someday sort of get to it. But I think the Bat Family, everyone loves it, but it is a difficult thing to kind of like tackle, just because it's like, wait, like if Batman's still in his 40s, like how did he have all these kids? The bucket is fire. Yeah, Hamilton. Like that bucket is like, again, gonna sell tickets for the movie. Speaking of pillars, who are your main pillars in DC verse? I got the Trinity, GL, Flash, and Dick Grayson. You literally just said my pillars in the DC universe. Maybe like I don't know, like Constantine I'll add in there and stuff like that, or Zatanna just to add a magic user. But like to be honest, like I think Johan, like the reason you like my channel and you found this place is because we have very similar tastes, and yeah, like I'm not gonna like bring up another list because that's exactly what I would do. And when will that signing be next week? When will it be? It's next Thursday, June 12th, I think. Like at 5 or 7 o'clock at Midtown Comics downtown here in New York City. If I do go, I'll probably get extra copies and maybe do a giveaway. Also, last giveaway, I might have to run that wheel again. I've been trying to reach Black Joker, who won the giveaway from the last stream, but sadly, he hasn't responded to me, or they haven't responded to me. I'm really hoping that they do, so I could get them those books, those signed books, the Midtown Comics exclusive, signed by Dan Slott, and the Absolute Martian Manhunter signed. So if anyone is in any Discord groups or anything like that with Black Joker, please let them know I am trying to find them so I could send them their giveaway. And if they don't respond or I'm not able to find them by like next week, I'll run that wheel again, and if so we might have to announce a new winner for that. I genuinely thought and still think that Shala is being used because she's gonna die, and that universe Galactus might also die. So if that happens, the main timeline Galactus is still coming. Yeah, but like I said, I don't know if you really do that story again. And I feel like Galactus might be like one of those like, and it'd be cool like if Galactus is a singular character. Like there's no other version of Galactus. Like Galactus exists in all the like different universes and stuff, because yeah, I mean that's a good theory, but like I said, I don't know if you do that story a second time. And then they can introduce Norrin. I do think like eventually they'll get to it. Like they'll probably put him in like an Annihilation movie or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see. Norrin is always welcome to the MCU. Yes, and also like Norrin is just cool. Like I think a lot of people like Silver Surfer these days. He's just a cool character. Nightwing's thing, I think, is going to be World's Finest from James Gunn. I wouldn't be surprised. Or he does Batman Brave and the Bold himself, because it doesn't seem like Andy Muschietti is that excited about it. And along with The Flash, he might be in movie jail for those kind of movies. He could have been in Love and Thunder, and if it was done correctly. Love and Thunder is such a disappointment, because I do love Ragnarok. I hope they... I don't know. Like I don't know if that character could have really showed up there. Like it would have been interesting, I guess, because like Thor and him have like a history and stuff. But there's a lot more wrong with Thor: Love and Thunder that doesn't involve the Silver Surfer. I was thinking too that Galactus would be more of like a singular entity being too. Yes, I think that would be like the best way to kind of be like, hey, they try to escape him and they think he's dead and stuff like that, and then he reappears somewhere else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm excited like to see it. Like it looks different visually from like the last couple Marvel movies. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I don't know. It's like one of those things where there's things about it, like the Lantern series, where I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then there's also things where I'm like, that's really cool. Wait, not Norin. Maybe Beta Ray should have shown face. Yeah, they keep teasing Beta Ray in these movies, and then he never shows up. But I doubt he's gonna ever show up because it looks like Thor might not make it out of Doomsday. Jane would should have came in when Thor dies, but I digress. Yes, that was crazy that they introduced like Jane Foster as Thor, the new Mighty Thor, and then immediately kill her like in a movie that was like half an hour, like an hour and a half long. Like it was just like, what is going on? Like why would you do that? And then a big problem with that movie is like Christian Bale is like giving like this crazy performance as Gore, and everyone else in the movie is in like a slapstick comedy. So it's almost like two different movies are going on at the same time. Huh? Thor dying? Chris Hemsworth posted like a really emotional post about like, oh, like thank you guys for the ride and all that. He didn't really outwardly say it, but like when you see like that post, you're like, man, I don't think he's making it. The MCU put themselves in a hard place. Yes, part of why the MCU is in such a hard place is that they sort of like started from the basis of like, hey, like what if this was real? That's why like everything comes from like that first Iron Man movie and Captain America. And now that they have the rights to these more interesting characters like the Fantastic Four and like the X-Men, they have like the Eternals problem when you introduce them. It's kind of like, where have you been this whole time? And it's kind of like a hard thing to undo. So it makes sense that they're trying to kind of like with this multiverse saga rearrange some things so that it does make sense. But it is a tough thing to balance, and I do not envy them. If you were a betting man, with what Peter Safran said, October 2027, there will be a Batman movie. Which do you think is more likely for October 2027? Batman Brave and the Bold or Reeves 2? My money is Batman Brave and the Bold. That is a good bet. James Gunn is really prolific. Like he went from Guardians of the Galaxy straight into Superman, straight into Peacemaker season 2. So if he's like actually written it, the only person that has to say yes to him is him. So there's no like approvals or whatever. Like I'm sure he has like a process of like making sure that it's a good script, but I don't think that's a bad bet to kind of have it Batman Brave and the Bold. But I will say it looks like Batman 2 is further along. It's just a matter of like shooting it. Like Matt Reeves um, might have some personal stuff going on, and then also like Robert Pattinson is shooting like a movie a week, so that's tough. Any DC and Marvel crossovers you're hoping to see next year? I would love to see Nightwing and Spider Man. I think a lot of people would love to see that. If they do that, all nothing else really matters. And also, I made a thumbnail for that video that I never made. So hopefully, I'll make a video and you'll see all the crossovers I'd like to see. Endgame is too good but not great, and they're too delusional with the idea that they need to be bigger and bigger. Yeah, that's fair, but like Marvel made a really good business out of making bigger and bigger. They figured it out. The thing is, Endgame was the end game. You can't really get much bigger than that, and they've been in a tough spot since. Zaslav does need to sign off on it, and that's the only person, which is nice. Yes, but like I think he reports directly to him. But if Superman is a success, James Gunn could do whatever he wants. So if Superman is big and huge, like we all hope it to be, like Zaslav is gonna be like, yes, give me a Batman. Nightwing and Spidey or Nightwing and Daredevil makes sense to me. Perfect. Like, for example, Downey coming back is cool, but Mads Mikkelsen, I butchered his name, as Doom would have been insane and accurate. Or, like, Killian Murphy, or anyone, honestly. Like, it's just, like, it seems like a waste of a, like, really great character to kind of, like, make it, like, a variant thing. Accurate to some degree, but they don't challenge themselves enough, and they play it too safe per usual. Yes, because of the nature of their cinematic universe, a lot of the movies, even that are supposed to have stakes, sort of have to like end in a way that like you don't have to watch the next one. So like Ant-Man, you had Kang, who was like this big villain, and he defeated him, but at the end of it he's like, should I tell anyone about this? Nah, like let's move on. It's like, no, you need to tell the Avengers there's a guy who's killed a bunch of Avengers and all that. So it's like they just, all these movies, nothing really happens in them because that like the universe got too big at a certain point. and that's probably why they shouldn't have killed off their heroes. Yes, but also like before they killed off their heroes, they should have made sure that the characters that were in place to kind of take up that mantle were in a better spot. And I think that had something to do with it. Chadwick Boseman passing away was probably a big part of that. He probably was going to be like, at the center of the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Cap, after Iron Man. So I wouldn't underestimate like that, which no one can account for. I think there's a specific reason James named it Brave and the Bold and not Batman Brave and the Bold. That is true. You could also make like Brave and the Bold like it doesn't necessarily have to be Batman. Like you could throw in a bunch of different characters in it. And we'll see. Like I'm excited to see what the DCU looks like. Like we got a peek at it at Creature Commandos, but like Superman is gonna be. I'm excited. I'm excited, guys. The Marvel universe just wasn't built for legacy, to be real. That's fair. Like anytime they've tried, like DC has done a better job of having legacy characters. Marvel, not so much. I think it's tougher with some of their characters because the idea is that they're more like realistic. It's the world you see outside, but I don't know. I still love the Marvel stuff. Brave and the Bold is better for Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. Listen, if they make Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. Now, I'm not a fan of the possible Kumail Nanjiani casting as Booster Gold, but I love Booster. I'll take any booster I can get. Nightwing and Spider-Man, Daredevil, Wonder Woman and Captain America, Thor and Green Lantern, Batman and Black Panther. Those are great crossovers. Hungry Almighty. Flash and Green Lantern is my Brave and the Bold. Yes, I think they recently did like there's like a recent one where like they were together, and that's another thing like what's cool about like hey like a possible like DCU with a legacy, like you can make like an animated movie of like Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and Barry. All right, guys. So I went way over what I thought I was gonna do because you've been so awesome and like the chat has been like really interactive. Please, after this video post, leave some feedback. I'm trying to get better at this live stuff. As you can see, I really go where you guys want to take me, and I need to be more on task and have more things together. But it's really fun to kind of catch up with you guys. Please, if you haven't, join the Discord where you'll learn more. I'll promote these things. Also, like I said, if I can't find the person that won the giveaway last time, I'm going to have to run the giveaway again. So please, comment on that video again so that, you have a chance at winning those books possibly because sadly, I can't find the person who won it. I'm just going to close out by reading these last comments out and then I'll head out, guys. Again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate all of you guys. I could easily see Gunn change the Brave and the Bold name to Batman Robin Dynamic Duo. I don't think they're doing Dynamic Duo because Dynamic Duos is the animated movie that's happening, so they'll probably not go that. But Batman and Robin makes sense. Like if you're trying to sell a movie, same reason they changed Superman Legacy to Superman. It's like, hey, it's simpler. Marvel's sliding timescale has always made legacy characters difficult, which might be why 2099 has managed to stick around in various forms. 2099 is awesome. They should make more like games and movie and like animated stuff with those characters. They still haven't done the Maestro, and I also wanted to make a video on the Hulk. Like that could be a great villain for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they keep making him a joke. He-Man, great video. I think it was great. Going down the comments was perfect. Can't do much about the pace if you know. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Appreciate you, Johan. You're always there. Been in basically all the live videos. Maybe like the one where I randomly went on, you weren't there. But appreciate you all. Like, sometimes when I started this channel, I was like, oh, let me talk to the camera and get better at it. Like, maybe some people watch it and stuff. But the fact that I have people here in a live stream, sort of chatting with me in a Discord, always giving me feedback, making me better, holding me accountable, I really appreciate that. And hopefully next week's stream is a little more organized. I get to the shop so we could talk some comics that I've actually read instead of like news articles that I'm reading off. So appreciate you all. Again, join the Discord so that we could chat, maybe talk about like possible video topics that are coming up, and maybe polls. Like, again, I'm trying to get better at this. The channel is growing, so I appreciate you all.